On March 8th, the exhibition Once Upon a Time Walt Disney opens at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. 2 days before the official opening, we did a tour of the exhibit, which presents the work of the Walt Disney Studio from 1928 to 1967 in its artistic context. Hundreds of production drawings, concept sketches, background paintings, character studies, and film clips are presented side by side with classical artwork and contemporary media to show how Walt Disney and his artists drew from the world around them to create animated movies that are still astonishing to this day. I spoke with Bruno Girveau, curator of the exhibit. This entire exhibit is, of course, about inspiration. What was your inspiration to even start this exhibit, to start looking into the past of Walt Disney's artistic inspirations?
Yeah, the idea came out when I saw the Disney Classic with my children. It was about 10 years ago. And as an historian of architecture, specialized in the 19th century, I realized while seeing Sleeping Beauty that for the Sleeping Beauty castle there was a lot of source of inspiration in the 19th century, but altogether before. For instance, I noticed that there is some influence from French Gothic revival, and for instance the castle of Pierrefonds, completely rebuilt by Viollet-le-Duc, but also I thought that the castle was inspired by the castle of Ludwig II in Bavaria, a castle built in the second part of the 19th century, and so on. And so I said to myself at that moment that, it could be one day an exhibition. And that was the very beginning of the story of this exhibition.
So how did you go from there to being able to actually convince Disney to release all of this wonderful material?
Everyone told me at the beginning of the conception of the exhibition that it would be nearly impossible to get archives from the Walt Disney Company.
You would think so.
Actually, I don't know why, but maybe the plan was good. I think for the first time, curators and museums tried to demonstrate that Walt Disney was a great artist, and he was acting like an artist, searching for a source of inspiration, hiring European immigrants, trained in academies in Europe. So actually someone tried to show that he was an artist, so maybe that's the reason why they have accepted to to lend so many pieces, so many great pieces, because it's maybe the first time that they allowed a museum to display so many original drawings, so many original documents from their archives.
Well, how about with the museums themselves? I mean, in this museum, about 10 years ago, I think it was, there was an exhibit of Charles M. Schulz's work for Peanuts. And there was some protest that, well, Charlie Brown isn't really fit for a fine art museum. Did you run into the same resistance here? I mean,
here, no, but in France, yes. But not for artistic reasons, but because in France the anti-American feeling is quite strong, especially 4 years ago. Yeah, especially, of course, for the Disney movies and American movies.
Sure.
Because there Walt Disney is considered as the paragon of mawkishness, American mawkishness, about paragon of mass culture, American mass culture. So it was a bit difficult to convince people, not people from the Walt Disney Company.
Right,
actually, it was easy, but people from my own circles, people from the intellectual and cultural circles. But at least I've managed to convince them. The Réunion des Musées Nationaux in Paris, which is in charge of the Grand Palais, it's the most important place for exhibition in France and maybe in the world, and then the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. You mean, your question is if the exhibition
had helped to change attitudes?
In France, I think so. It's a bit pretentious, but actually except a few journalists who were very critical. The bulk of the journalists of the newspaper did agree the demonstration. And it was a great surprise for everybody to see how many sources of inspiration, how scholarly were the sources of inspiration of Walt Disney. And so it was a great success.
I had to wonder if the eventual acceptance of the idea had something to do with Disney's clear European influences. It's well known that the Disney films during Walt's reign drew heavily from the continent's folk tales and character archetypes, but there's more to it than that. Many of the studio's artists were European expatriates, and Disney later collaborated with artists like visual music pioneer Oscar Fischinger and surrealist Salvador Dali, although not always successfully. Still, there was a lot of ingrained skepticism to overcome.
Yes, because it symbolized the American imperialism. Mm-hmm. So people in France and sometimes in Europe made a confusion between the Walt Disney Company and Walt Disney the man, the artist, and to have difficulties to look at the movies in an objective way. And I think that could be the reason why Walt Disney have been so unpopular in France since the end of the 50s.
Right.
Because in all the important books about history of cinema, it was considered as nothing.
From what I've seen, of course, you have a look also at the influence that Disney had, the company, and Disney, the person, had on artists that came after. One thing, of course, that I'm also interested in is Japanese animation, which in many ways he influenced the works of Osamu Tezuka, which sort of gave birth to modern Japanese animation. I didn't see any mention of that anywhere here. Was it for lack of material, or...?
No, because it will be a next exhibition.
Okay.
We plan to do another exhibition in Japan and with Pierre Lambert about the history of animation from the very earliest time, from Émile Reynaud and the pioneers of animation until the current Japanese animation, Miyazaki and the studio.
When is this planned to occur?
About 2010, 2009-10, I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe there will be a venue in Montreal, maybe.
I guess
because it's one of the capital of animation in the world. Today you have Tokyo, Los Angeles and San Francisco, and Montreal.
Now, Once Upon a Time Walt Disney will be at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts until June 24th. If you want to see this incredible exhibit with your own eyes, don't procrastinate. Montreal is the second and final stop for the exhibit. Although you can buy the related book and DVD, nothing compares to seeing this material in person. Just be sure to set aside the entire afternoon. After several hours, I was still unable to see everything the exhibit had to offer. In fact, you should set aside 2 afternoons.